Hello, everybody. Today we are here with Leah Kalamakis from not from One Woman Shop. We are from One Woman Shop. Leah's here from the Freelance to Freedom project. She's also a web designer and developer at leahkalamakis.com. She's here to talk during our Setting Up Shop month, which is really appropriate because she also created the Stress Less and Impress course, which helps one-woman shops and solopreneurs streamline their processes and their businesses. So we're super excited to have Leah here today. I'm also super excited because she loves wine and popcorn, which are two of my favorite things.
Me too.
So Leah, if you want to tell us a little bit more about you and your business.
So I started off as just web design. So that's my primary service-based business. As you said, at leahkalamakis.com. And then I continued to do that, but I created the Freelance to Freedom project as well. So that's a website and community for freelancers who are starting and growing their businesses.
And the Freelance to Freedom community is really well loved across the internet. Never seen anything bad about it. We just always see, we love Leah. She's so smart. She has so much great insight. We love the Freelance to Freedom community. And so we are both big fans of that as well. But can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to start the Freelance to Freedom community?
Yeah, so basically it started as I knew that I wanted to continue with my web design business, but I felt this need, my story of quitting my job and being able to start freelancing on something completely unrelated to what I studied and what I was doing in my corporate job. Even though there's a lot of how to build a business websites, how to, freelance, I felt like there's a lot more people that still don't know those exist. And so I felt like even though there's a lot of competition out there in the arena of that style of website, that I had a voice to share, and I wanted to teach and basically share my story. So I came up with it. I wanted it really to be a community, so I didn't put my name on it, or I didn't call it my name. I named it the Freelance to Freedom Project, and I didn't plaster my face all over it because I wanted it to be this community. So although for the first I guess it's 2 years, it was just me blogging and creating on that website. I'm now bringing on new featured writers, and like you guys, coming soon, to really bring in new voices, and I'm not an expert on everything, so that's why I think it's important to bring in voices from other people, other experts in different areas.
Definitely.
Awesome.
It kind of parallels how we see ourselves at One Woman Shop, where we're kind of facilitators and community builders, and then bringing in other people and their expertise. Because, like you said, we don't know everything, just like you don't. But can you give us kind of the short version of how you started freelancing? You kind of alluded to it, but can you dive in a little bit more?
Yeah. So it's so funny to think back on now, but basically, like many people, I was just very bored and restricted in my corporate job. So I just doing the same things every day. I was working for a shoe company, but I was behind a computer doing Excel sheets, boring stuff. And I really felt like, okay, all I can look forward to is a 5% raise next year, or even that. And I felt that was very restricting to me. So I stumbled upon, like many people who start, I think I stumbled upon some websites, some books, and I said, oh, wow, I could create something for myself. This looks like it's actually possible. So I went through a lot of crazy ideas of giant beach towels that I could bring to France because their beach towels are very tiny. Or I wanted to start importing kettlebells because in France they weren't into a lot of fitness things, and I thought that could be a business idea. So basically I was creating websites for those ideas to try and kind of test the market for them. And I realized that I actually was really enjoying creating the websites and learning about web design. So I had no experience in it before, no education. I found a lot of great courses online, and I just started. So I started with, doing free websites for friends and family, and then it just kind of referrals and such went on from there, and and grew fast. So that's the starting story.
I love it. I love especially how you go through all these crazy ideas and you're like, I can do anything. But that's great that you found your niche. So tell us a little bit more. I mentioned that you started or created the Stress Less and Impress course, and I imagine that probably came out of realizing places in your business where you could streamline and teach others to do the same. But can you tell us a little bit more about that journey?
Yeah, so it was only about 3 months into, I think it was 3 months, maybe even less, of when I quit my job and started doing it full time. And there's this point where you get a new client and you celebrate, and then you're like, oh crap, what do I do now? You know, what do I send them? How do I start this? And then everything throughout the process. And I was just feeling very scatterbrained, basically, like never knowing where I was at or what I was supposed to be doing. And I had a coach at the time, Heather Thorkelson, and she really helped me put in place different steps in my process, and basically templates for each part of the process, things I could repeat using online tools. And then so fast forward about 3 months after launching Freelance to Freedom, and I ran a contest for people to fill out my survey, because at that point it was just a blog. I didn't have any products or anything. And the survey was, typical, what do you struggle with? If you had a magic wand, what would you want fixed? And I think I had 80 responses, and like over 50 of them mentioned something about processes, streamlining, never knowing what to do at different parts. With a client. So I said, okay, that's the sign, because I created this thing that helped me so much for myself. Like, it just changed my business, having things outlined and streamlined for every step. And so I said, I can package this up and teach people exactly what I did. So it's very simple, but it's things that you just don't really think about, and then you put them in place and you're like, wow, that actually saves me a lot of time. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, obviously this was kind of a perfect meeting point where what people needed was exactly what you could offer. Just out of curiosity, if you hadn't known how to do these things, would you advise kind of learning how to do it and packaging it up? Or is it you feel like people should only offer things that they already have experience with and kind of know about already?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you have to go through it yourself to be able to teach it. So yes, if you do a survey randomly and you're seeing all these people that have a problem, then yeah, learn it if you have the problem yourself, because you definitely need to be solving a problem. So if it's something you don't struggle with, then it might be hard for you to teach it. But if you see, oh, all these people have the same problem as me, let me figure out a solution, and if I can prove that it works for myself, then teach it to others.
That's great. So I want to build off that a little bit, because I know we have a lot of One Woman Shop members and people in the community that are trying to build e-courses. So when you had this idea, you knew you had gone through the process yourself. But where did you start? Did you have beta testers? Did you draft stuff out and just give it away for free? Did you immediately launch it where it is now? How did you kind of embark upon that?
Yeah, so I actually have a freebie on my, most of your members probably have already, but I kind of outline the steps of what I went through. And basically I started by, first thing I put up an opt-in page. And I said, you guys have this problem, I want to create something for you. So I could start to see if there really was interest, because when you do a survey, you never really know if people are going to pay for that or if it's a big enough problem, because when we fill out surveys, it's the thing that comes to mind. So that was important to me to really gauge interest further. And then I started, I outlined it and I started blogging about it. And yeah, that was very pivotal. I did a blog post that's still like one of the most popular posts on the site. And it's the one that, you get emails from, thank you so much for this. And that's when you really know, okay, this is a topic. And that was kind of like a mini version of the whole course. So from that, I thought, definitely I should. And then going from there, I didn't beta test, but I had a really great mastermind group, and they were kind of not, I didn't think they were my ideal clients, but I had them go through it, and they said this changed everything for us. So I thought, oh, not only is my ideal maybe bigger than I think, or the people that I can help with it, there's more than I realize, but they pushed me to do it. So I think having a mastermind, accountability partners, or just people that you can show things to is super important, because the other aspect was fear. The first course I did, and I think it's the same for many people, it's really scary, because you think so many things. Are people going to like this? Are they all going to ask for a refund? Oh, I've worked so hard to build this audience. Now if I give them something they don't like, are they never going to buy from me again? You know, there's so many fears that you go through. So having people to say, just do it, put it up and put it out there, was amazing.
So just to shoot off that real quick, one thing we've been talking a lot about in actually our accountability group for One Woman Shop, which we also think is very important to have, we've been talking about putting yourself out there and how it can be really tough, and how getting negative feedback, which we've been going through this thing lately where we've been getting a few emails, and it's kind of surprising, and I definitely am kind of dealing with some of those feelings. But do you have any times, like, have you had any negative feedback that you've had to address, and if so, how have you gotten through that?
Yeah, I haven't, in terms of the course specifically, or
in general, or the course.
Yeah, for the course specifically, any negative feedback, it was more so that it wasn't right for the person. So I think the lesson for that is, whenever you get negative feedback in anything, comments on your blog or about your products or your services, you really have to look at who the person is, if they were right for it, and that it's not necessarily your ideal clients, and that's okay to receive negative feedback from people in that way.
Yeah, we definitely have to keep that in mind, where I think we get so in tune with, we're just going to build this for everybody, but we cannot please everybody. We cannot be everything to all people. So that's super, super important.
Yeah.
So getting back to the content of the course, the streamlining, what would you say as a solopreneur are the top 2 to 3 benefits of actually streamlining in your business?
Yes, there are so many more than 2 or 3. I would say the number one is the time saving. So we really don't realize how much time we're spending on little tiny tasks and admin stuff throughout the day. And I always have people tell me, like, write down minute for minute your day, and then you'll see, but I can never get myself to actually do that. But once you put process into place, you realize how much time you were spending on that, or just how much time you're able to spend on other things, and you just get more done. So time saving for sure would be the biggest one. Then I would say helping with overwhelm, because as one woman shops, we're usually wearing all the hats, and when you wear all the hats, you have everything in your head, half the stuff on a notepad, here, there, on your phone, in Evernote, it's everywhere. And that's just, scientifically, I don't know what it means, but you can never, it's really hard to focus on any given thing at any time. So it really helps with that overwhelm, because you have the majority of these big repeatable tasks taken care of. And you may need to action them, but they're not in that list in your brain. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I reached that point this morning of overwhelm, and I texted my husband and said, just make a list. I'm like, I have 14 lists already.
Yes.
So when you are talking to people in your community, or you're talking to maybe people who are about to purchase your course, what are you seeing as the biggest struggles that prevent people from effectively systemizing or streamlining?
Yeah, I'd say the struggle preventing them from doing that is not knowing where to start. So streamlining or a system or a process, those are just like words, they don't mean much. So not knowing where to start keeps us from starting in the first place. And you can think, oh, I need to streamline my social media. What does that mean? So my biggest thing that I see with people when they get past that struggle is starting by just listing out every action that you take throughout a process. So if it's like what I cover in Stress Less, it's a client process. So from first inquiry, when someone first fills out your contact form, and everything that happens in between until you say goodbye. So that would be the first step, and that's the easiest way to say, oh wow, there's a lot more going on here. It's not just a little conversation and then I do the work. There's so many details in between.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's definitely true, where it's just you're looking at this overwhelming amount of stuff and you don't really know where to start. So I'm wondering, we talk a lot about how business is not one size fits all. We have people that are running retail shops, we have people that are running service-based businesses all over the board. So we're wondering, is streamlining really for everyone? Are there businesses that you see that it's a better fit for? And can you give us examples of different systems that work for different people or different types of businesses?
Yeah, definitely. So to answer your question first, yes, for everyone, there's something that you can streamline. There's something that you can automate, whether it be brick or mortar, or if you just sell ebooks, or if you're doing one-on-one work. So an example, let's say just using a project management system. If you're a brick and mortar, you might be launching a new product or having some kind of event in your store. If you're selling ebooks, maybe you're launching a new one. And not just about launching, but we all have projects in our business. So using project management software just to get all your ideas, all your deadlines into one place can really help with that. And then especially if you're going to have either team members or you're partnering with someone, you can bring them into that software and know exactly who's doing what when, and it's all organized in one place instead of in your inbox here and other things in other places. Another good one, I think, is basically every business and probably all your one-woman shoppers. Is that what you call them?
That's all. Sometimes. Normally one-woman shops, but sometimes shoppers.
Yeah. Is like social media. You know, that's something, there's definitely ways to streamline. So I actually got help with this from Jackie Johnston. I don't know if you guys know her. And she, I did a one-on-one with her where she talks about her 4 pillars. So it's basically 4 different types of content that you should be sharing regularly. And so a very simple way of streamlining that is she had a spreadsheet, and it just had the 4 different areas. And then she made me do a list of all the websites. One of the areas was sharing content from other people. And so she made me make this huge list of sites and people who have content that my audience would like. So now anytime I need to sit down and batch some content, instead of being like, oh, now I have to find a bunch of stuff to say on social media, I can go to that list, open up a bunch of tabs with those websites, see their recent articles, and just pop those into social media scheduling. So basically there are things, Stress Less and Impress specifically is really service-based businesses where you have a lot of back and forth with clients, just because that's what I do, that's what I have experience in, so that's what I teach. But every business can find ways to automate and use online tools to make things easier on them.
Well, I just wanted to say you're more than welcome to take content from One Woman Shop and tweet it out if you ever need stuff to tweet. You're welcome. But one question I have for you is, you know, when people are going through Stress Less and Impress, is it kind of a one-time process, or is this an ongoing thing that you need to adapt over time with your business?
Yeah, so the course itself, it's meant to be a one-time thing. Like, get it all done, get templates set up for a welcome package, a goodbye package, have a template in your project management that you can just copy that's for similar projects. But That said, it's something that's ever evolving. So a good example of this is your contracts. The process of your contracts isn't going to evolve if you use contract signing software, for example, but it's just a good example in the fact that you get a bad client, they don't come around often, and they may take forever to pay. So that's something you need to, update your contract and adjust. You may change your packages, so you want to do a completely different kind of onboarding. So as your business evolves, you'll definitely evolve your processes. But in the sense of the course, it's really set it up, and then for the time being, as long as your business is the same type of services, then you shouldn't need to touch it again.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Going back to the project management piece of it, I think through Stress Less, you talk a lot about Basecamp, but I'm wondering, there's a lot of discussion about Trello and 17 Hats and all these different project management systems. So at what point do you advise that people just choose one and dive in and stick with it, as opposed to spending a lot of time hopping around and trying them out?
Yes, give yourself a few minutes and then stick to it for a while. It's so easy to pop in and out, and I've tried lots of them. In the course, I talk about, I show examples of Basecamp because that's what I use, but they're all similar. So it's important to find your main reasons for using it, like what are the primary features that you want, and then find something that fits that and stick to it. So you can try out a bunch for a week, but not anymore, because it's tempting. And when 17 Hats came out, for example, it was very promising, and everyone wanted in because they had a great launch campaign, I think. But don't jump on something new just because it's the new shiny thing, and make sure it has what you want, because it's a great, just using it as an example, it has lots of great features that help streamline your overall process. But for example, it's not a project management software in itself. So making sure those base things are covered, definitely. And then just choose and move on. I have a blog post called How to Choose Your Tools, and it's basically a long list of me talking, and then I just say, just choose. This isn't really a good blog post, but that's the lesson.
No, it's very true. It's shiny object syndrome to the max.
So obviously that's one thing that people, one trap that people can fall into is kind of obsessively looking into different tools. Do you see through your work that there are other kind of traps that keep people from really streamlining or really systemizing?
That's probably the big one. And then I think it's specifically with my course is that they think that they have to start at the beginning. Like they write out A to Z everything they do, but then they're with a current client, they're wrapping up. So I encourage people to just start with the thing that you're working on now. If you're even if you're writing a blog post right now, outline every step and make a checklist of what you need to do for that blog post, and then your brain just doesn't have to work as hard next time, because you say, okay, put in the text, add the photo, add the alt tag. It's all these little micro decisions that we have to make on a daily basis. So if you're doing a blog post right now, then outline a system for that, or find the tool that'll make it easier. And then you can go back. When you get to each new step with a new client, you can work on that thing. But don't think that you have to take a week or a month to redo everything all at once, because that's daunting.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, I know we are one-woman shops, but oftentimes we work with contractors who can help us in aspects of our business we're not pros at, or we even bring on team members. So how can setting up these processes and streamlining things really help in bringing on new people or introducing people to different aspects of our business?
Oh my gosh, just went through this with I brought on a virtual assistant that was taking on a lot more work, and I had her do a lot of this for me, but you can do it yourself. Like I just said, any current item that you're working on, outlining exactly what you do and why for that. So we can really get in our heads when we're uploading that blog post, because it's natural and you just think that it's easy, but there's always little, specifics to your site that are different. So just noting everything as you're doing it, or record your screen while you're doing it, that makes it easy to just hand off. I have tons of videos here and there of how to do everything in my business, and then I'm able to just say, oh, I don't have a process for that, and I want to give that to someone, and I can just give them that video. So that's really helpful. But another great thing is having an assistant or a team member do this for you. So the first thing I did with her is I had her write down how to write a process for a specific item. So she outlined exactly what it should include, and then from then I just would give her a video, and then she would make the process from that video. So that we all, as one-woman shoppers,
go for it.
as much as we want, we're scared of bringing on team members, or maybe we think, oh, I can never afford to be more than one. You're going to get there, and you should set up your business now so that is possible, whether it be next week or next year. You'll be a lot better off if you have that outlined from the beginning.
So, speaking of virtual assistants, not like we've ever said this, but if somebody hypothetically were to say, well, I can just do it better myself, or I can do it faster myself, what would you tell them?
But I struggle with this too.
How do you solve it?
How do I solve it? I force myself to give it to someone else. And then once I give it to someone else, I see that I don't need to be doing it. So I think it's just some will, and some really desire to grow and desire to be bigger. I remember hearing people tell me to have someone do my newsletter for me, and in the beginning you're just like, I can do this myself, and they're not going to know how to click that button, and I know that it's really hard. It's really hard, but I knew that if I could think a year out or 5 years out, I knew I didn't want to be doing that stuff. So I got to find a way now to be able to get there in the future. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, we joke about this, how we call our business our baby. And so a lot of it is just like this separation anxiety of, I am a little bit of a control freak, but I also am worried that this isn't going to get done how I want it to get done. And so I'm sure having those process docs in place also alleviates that concern of, is this going to get done how I would do it? Well, yeah, because I outlined the entire process, right? Exactly.
And then it really makes it easy to see where they went wrong. To see, if the first time you hand something over and they forget to do this item, then you can highlight that, and it makes it a lot easier instead of just being like, oh, it doesn't look the way I want it. Well, no, why not? Because you didn't add bolding or italics to the blog post. I keep using blog posts as an example, but it's a common one.
No, that's actually an incredibly simple way to sum it up, but that totally makes sense. You can literally go back, like if, say you have a Google Doc, go back and highlight where did it go wrong? Oh, exactly in step 4.
Yeah, so and often it's because you didn't add that. Usually all the problems I see is because like, oh, I forgot to mention that little tiny detail.
That's really important to me because obviously it's super important in the grand scheme of the world. So since we're kind of dealing with different objections from people, what would you say to somebody who says, I don't have time right now, I'm too overwhelmed to streamline? What would you say to them?
It's not going to get any better. That's the first and foremost. You only learn that with experience. We think that, oh, once I get through this batch of clients, things are gonna calm down, I'm gonna have time. But it's not gonna get better, and you don't want it to because you want to grow, right? You want to have more things to do, or bigger things, or side projects. So it's not gonna get better, and I know it's not helpful, but if you're overwhelmed already, you have the problem, you need to start solving it. now. And if you don't, it's just going to get worse. So.
Yeah, I think we can always say there's, oh, just when I get this one more thing done or when I wrap this one more client, but things will always keep coming up. We know that for sure with One Woman Shop. It's always like, oh, when we hit this hurdle, no, we just created some more hurdles.
Exactly. So start small, like I said before, you don't need to revamp everything all at once. Just say, today I'm overwhelmed, I don't have time, but I'm just going to put this new thing into place. I'm just going to change this one little detail.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So I'm wondering if you have any specific success stories, no need to name names, but any specific stories of people who have really successfully streamlined and have come back to you and been like, oh, my entire life and business are changed. And we know it happens because I see it on blogs all the time, people talking about stress less and impress.
Yeah, I don't know if I have stories of how it happened, but it's incredible, and I'm so humbled and grateful that this course could help people in that way. And I think that the biggest one, this was life-changing for my business. I think a story around it would be like, a big problem people have is projects never ending, especially, in creative, and I have this a lot in web design, they're just never ending because there's always something that you can tweak. If you're a copywriter, they can always come back and say, oh, I saw this other site and they had these links at the bottom of their about page. Should I have that too? Or websites are ever evolving, so there's always going to be changes, so people don't know how to wrap up projects and how to say, okay, this is it, it's done. I'm happy to work with you in the future, but that'll be at an additional price or a new project. And people like me, I have a lot of trouble saying no to people in that way, and you just think, oh, it's just this tiny little thing, I'm just going to help them, they're going to like me more and refer me more, but that just can get out of control. So the goodbye package, I call it, but you could call it you're not actually saying goodbye to your client, but a launch package, or a document to wrap up that you can send them at the end, that just really gives them a clear impression that we've wrapped up this project, so here's your launch package. Really helps, and in that, putting common questions like links, great ideas for blog posts, is the common questions you always get from clients when you finish working with them. So write blog posts for that and then link to them. And then if there's things you don't want to be doing, like I don't love doing website maintenance, like monthly stuff for clients. So I recommend people in that PDF, I say these are people that do ongoing maintenance, if that's something you want. And then being very clear, like, this is the end. I would love to work with you more in the future. Here's how you could work with me going forward. And this is how much it would cost. And that's just, it's not mean, it's not scary to a client, but it makes it really clear to them that it's the end. It's over for now.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, giving it some closure. Yeah. Thank you so much for covering basically all of your streamlining best practices. It's really interesting to see it in practice. But let's talk more about the Freelance to Freedom community. So you've built that community in tandem with your business, and we absolutely love it. Obviously, like, we hear a lot about it, we're in it, a lot of great fans from it. But we really want to know how you kind of manage both in tandem with each other and how they feed each other too.
Yeah, managing it's kind of hard. There's a constant, they're very separate in my brain. I don't have a lot of clients that come from it. I do have clients that join afterwards. So they're very separate. So there is, whenever you have side projects, there is a constant struggle of, okay, today what am I working on? And in that sense, my solution is my clients always come first. So if I have client work to do, that's a priority. But in terms of building my freelance business, my web design business, often Freelance to Freedom will come before that. So I think there's a balance. If you are someone that wants to have two different projects. Know that it is a lot of work, 2 websites, 2 blogs, but it's manageable. And now I forgot your second question on that part.
Well, you kind of answered it there, just kind of how they work in tandem and how you manage them. I know that the same applies for Cristina and I. We're both running our own businesses while attempting to work on One Woman Shop, and it's tough because we both love One Woman Shop, and we're super passionate about it. So I always have to remind myself the clients do have to come first, even though sometimes I'm a little bit more excited to work on the One Woman Shop aspect of it. So.
Yeah. But I think, lost my train of thought, but yes.
No worries, we'll give you another one.
Yeah.
So obviously your community has grown a lot and is continuing to grow. And as you know, we just launched Building Your Online Community, the e-course, and so we love talking about community building. And so we're just wondering some of your best practices for growing and making that community awesome.
Yeah. I think they're awesome. They're definitely awesome, and part of it I think is I just feel very lucky to have attracted the type of people that are awesome together. That sounds silly, but I don't know if there's a reason behind that necessarily. But in terms of growing it and nurturing it and making sure that it's continues to be a great community, even though it's not just me, it's people helping each other. A big part of that is the onboarding process. So when someone joins my list, I have a welcome sequence of emails that go out, and I made a point in a couple of them to really talk about community and how in the Facebook group, what you can get out of it, what you can expect to see, and what not to do, I guess I mentioned a little bit. And so that kind of, instead of just throwing someone a link to a group, it kind of sets expectations, and it makes people want to get involved more. So that's a big thing. And then I guess guidelines and sticking to those, even though it can be hard. So in a lot of communities, a big problem is self-promotion, and I want people to be able to promote. But I get a lot of private messages of saying, oh, I'm launching this. Do you mind if I post it in the group? And as much as I love the person and I want to be able to share their stuff, I do have to remind them that if I did it for you, I would have to do it for everyone. So having those guidelines and sticking to them, no matter how hard that can be. And then finding other ways to support those people. So if I say, oh, I can't have you do it in here, but then I'm going to go and tweet them and promote them myself in other ways.
Yeah, we have one thing I know that you do in Freelance to Freedom in the Facebook group is offer the opportunities for self-promotion so that people can pop in and share their blog posts on Thursdays and things of that nature. So we also do that, and it gives the opportunity, but also puts that parameter around when it's okay. That's really good.
Exactly.
All right. Cristina, did you have any questions before we launch?
I had a question about your Facebook group, and I just forgot it. It was so good, I think. I'm sure it'll pop back into my head at some point. But since we are kind of nearing the end of our time, we like to ask some rapid fire questions. And as we warned you at the beginning, they're never rapid fire because we like to ask follow-up questions. We'll do our best. So we're curious about your favorite social media platform.
I would have to say Facebook. Definitely Facebook.
Groups or pages or both?
Not pages.
Right.
No.
No.
Groups.
And what about your least favorite?
My least favorite that I've used, I'm going to do 2. Google Plus, because I just don't use it or get it, and it's probably going away, I think. Then I'd say LinkedIn, just because I haven't spent the time, and I know I need to, but right now I don't have any energy to put into LinkedIn. But I should. Do you guys use LinkedIn?
My side job is recruiting, and so I spend like all day on LinkedIn, but it's also a very different industry, so I have mixed opinions. In that industry, I think it's absolutely essential, but like for one-woman shops, I think less so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reminded to update my LinkedIn profile every time somebody tries to connect, and I'm like, oh, I should probably log in and update something.
Yeah. Awesome. The first site you check in the morning.
Oh gosh, I hate saying is it the same question for all or the same response? Facebook. But I have the group, so they're my priority always, and I'm always curious what happened overnight.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Oh, that would be wine. Popcorn comes later, but red wine. Depending on the time of the year, if I can sit outside and drink wine, otherwise I sit inside and drink wine.
So wine is the common denominator.
Yeah. Having lived in France, are you partial to French wines?
I'm not partial to French wines. I'm partial to French wine prices, so I don't get to enjoy that pleasure as much here in New York. It was, $3 for a great bottle of wine in France, and I'm just like, that's affordable.
Trader Joe's, $3 check. That's all I'm saying. Maybe not top quality, but whatever. My turn.
Oh, sorry, yeah. We got distracted by wine.
Yeah, just thinking about the wine and the popcorn now. Waiting for 5 p.m. The best thing you've ever heard someone say about your business?
I wouldn't have my business without you, probably. Was definitely the best. Yeah.
That is amazing. You got to write that on a Post-it note and hang it on your computer.
Yeah. So I have screenshots. If you don't have one of those, I have a folder. Whenever someone says something nice online, I screenshot it and it goes in that folder when you're down.
Yes, we call it a rainy day file.
We love that. The question we like to ask of all of our guests is, what is your favorite part about being a one-woman shop?
Freedom of everything. Freedom of time, I think, is the big side at any point of any day, usually, unless I have a client call, but still I can reschedule that if I want to. Deciding what I'm doing at any moment, at any time. Freedom. I have to use that word.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be wrong not to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we are going to post this on the site, and we will have some show notes, and we'll also have a link for Stressless Impress so people can check that out and see if it's the right fit for them right now, which it probably should be. But thank you.
Is there anything else that you're working on that you want to share with us?
Oh. No, to be honest, I'm right now, end of summer, I'm getting married in September, so I'm actually calming things down. I'm going to take a full month off, which is pretty crazy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But
That's amazing.
So nothing big in the works.
Awesome.
Sounds like you deserve it, though.
So much.
Well, thank you. It was amazing. Thanks.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.